There were four of us in there, and in retrospect, there were a lot of red flags that now, after the implosion and learning more and putting different pieces of the puzzle together, start making sense and are kind of clues. But so there are four of us in there. Obviously, there could have been five. There are many people back on shore that would have eagerly, he would have been appeasing customers waiting to go, filling that fifth seat. But there was only the four of us. And it made a lot of noise. And when we got down there, and another clue in retrospect is we didn't tow out. It's a fairly gentle sloping bottom. We had to go much farther offshore than I would need to go that deep off of Roatan. I mean, we were probably 10 or 12 miles offshore. And he chose to stop the towing a little shallow. We could have easily gone a little deeper, and that would have been a better test. But I think that was an indication of his lack of faith in that vessel. And when we got down there, he didn't do any of the driving in my recollection. He immediately, I believe I was the first one to drive, but he basically insisted, it was his idea, nobody asked to drive, had each of us drive. And I think that was his kind of sick way of, if we had imploded, we were a little bit in control of our own destiny, because when we were driving, we were needing to go towards deeper water the idea was really we were trying to get to the exact depth of the Titanic to confirm the hull was safe for that depth. And, he knew at that point what the cross-section of the hull looked like. He knew that it had been hit by lightning. He knew that his engineer had quit, that would refuse to go in it, that the Lockridge was refusing. I didn't know any of these things.
Are you basing that on testimony that you have viewed here at the?
Wired magazine articles, talking to other people involved in things I've learned in the last year.
Ocean
Right,
Gate?
so I think that would be important to understand if Mr. Stanley is talking about conversations he had with Mr. Rush at the time, or if this is speaking now after there's been obviously a lot of information.
So, yeah, Mr. Stanley, just to clarify, you're making that position on
From
what you
things
think-
I've learned after the implosion. These are things that Rush never told me.
Yes, sir. And it's from social media and media reports.
And being here and talking to people directly.
Understand. Sir.
Yes, if you could just limit to your answers to the time frame before the accident occurred on June 18th, of what you knew then.
Okay. So we got down there, and it's making noises that, the sound of a carbon fiber band breaking when it's in a 5-inch thick matrix is a lot of energy being released. And we were all clearly a little disnerved, but he had warned us, and I think nobody wanted to be the one to, say they wanted to go up first. But I remember that at one point when I was driving, the bottom was a very gentle slope, and you didn't have a compass in front of you. The compass was on the screen, I believe, and you were actually able to drive to deeper water, and the window was a little distorting in terms of being able to tell the slope on the bottom, but you could actually drive to deeper water by the cracking sounds would amplify when you got deeper. And at some point, I don't remember who, we were all like, well, that's probably close enough. We've been down here long enough, and we went back up. And what I wrote him in the emails, and which is even more concerning than the cracking sounds that happened on the way down or while we were at the bottom is that there was a kind of like a grand finale of cracking sounds as we were getting close to the surface, which I'm not a carbon fiber expert, but just thinking about it logically, the only way that you get a whole lot of more cracking when you're coming back up is that material degraded so much that it stored energy that was then released as the pressure was released. And, you know, that's what I wrote him in the email. And so I'm not allowed to talk about the 11 square feet of visible delamination that is now on the public record?
Well, we're focusing right now on what you knew up to the 18th of June, the accident day in 2023.
Okay, well, I didn't know about, all I knew at that point was what I heard. And that was enough for me to write these emails. I hadn't seen anything, I hadn't been told anything, and just off of that information, you know, how many emails back and forth over more than a year?
So you had mentioned a lightning strike. Did Mr. Rush or anybody at Ocean Gate prior to your dive on that Titan hull, did they tell you that there was a lightning strike in the vicinity of the Titan hull in the Bahamas?
I don't believe so. I think the first time I heard of a lightning strike was reading about it.
Do you know the damage a lightning strike will do to a vessel?
I'm sure it would be extensive, especially to a carbon fiber hull that's conductive.